Hey everybody, it's Chuck Esposito and Jason McCormick here at Red Rock Racing Sportsbook for our weekly STN betting segment, Bookends. We're going to take a look at what happened the previous week and what's going to happen this week. It's World Series week, guys. So it's the Red Sox and the Dodgers playing in the World Series. Normally when you talk about LA and Boston, it's Celtics-Lakers, but now it's Dodgers-Red Sox. We're still waiting for the Dodgers for some reason to name a pitcher. They haven't come up with a pitcher for Game 1. We think it'll be Kershaw or Rich Hill. Kershaw's never pitched in Fenway Park. We opened the series up, Jay, minus $1.35 on the Red Sox. The public let us know very quickly that's a little bit too low. It's been pretty one-sided early on in favor of the Red Sox, but should be a great series with these two teams. A lot of history between these two. They've never faced each other in the World Series. Then you have a couple of kind of key tidbits and key stats to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the championship series were fantastic. We saw the Red Sox really run through the Astros. They caught all the breaks in that series, but they looked absolutely fantastic. Dodgers, Brewers could have gone either way. It was a great series there. But I think, yeah, World Series, a lot of money on Boston. When I look at this series, I look key matchup is J.D. Martinez versus Clayton Kershaw. Likely to see Kershaw probably pitch 3 games or 2 games and then a relief appearance. Saw a lot of J.D. Martinez with him with the Diamondbacks last year. J.D. Martinez has a career batting average, though, of .455 against Clayton Kershaw, so that doesn't spell well for the Dodgers. One of the key pitchers for the Red Sox that struggled in the ALCS was Craig Kimbrell out of the bullpen. Astros were able to put some hits on him. However, in his career against Manny Machado is 0 for 7 against Kimbrell, and Justin Turner's 0 for 6 against Kimbrell. So Kimbrell has had some success against the Dodgers. I look for that to continue. I think Boston, again, gets the advantage of the home field advantage. Playing in the cooler weather helps the Red Sox a lot, but hopefully we get a good series.
I think it will be. I think the big key for the Red Sox is pitching, though. They need Chris Sale to be dominant, because if they lose that game with Chris Sale, we know that Price has had his struggles in the postseason. Although he pitched well, he at least got that win. He finally got a postseason win, but I think that's a big part of it. I think the Dodgers have an advantage as far as pitching goes, Red Sox as far as being at home, and with that lineup, which has been so good throughout the course of the season.
The Red Sox weren't intimidated to face Justin Verlander twice and Cole, so they grounded out. They've seen the best pitching out there, and like I said, I just hope we see a good series, and obviously from a bookmaking standpoint, we hope to see 7 games and get lots of action on it.
Well, I think being the two market teams, and East Coast, West Coast, I think it bodes really well for a great handle on this series.
And as soon as they name a pitcher, we'll get a lot of the props up. We'll have strikeout props, home run props, a lot of props. It'll be not Super Bowl like, but we'll have lots of props on the World Series.
Yeah, I think it's a fun week for us with baseball and pro football. I think when you look at pro football too, this was one of those weeks that was really good for the bettors. You had some small road favorites in the Patriots and the Vikings that got there. You look at the Patriots; they were a 3-point favorite. It comes out that Gronk's not going to play. That line drops down to 1.5. The public backs the Patriots in that game, and then 2 teams that they back every single week. They back the Rams, they backed the Chiefs. Both of them got there again. It was really a good week for the public as far as parlays, teasers go. I think it was probably the best pro football week so far year to date, and the public did really well on those games.
Yeah, and one game that they also added in that parlay was the Vikings. Short 3.5-point favorite against the Jets. That was thrown in all the parlays. So a bad week for the books, good week for the public. They loaded up here in week 6, week 7. They'll be ready to go, and they'll be banging in on the World Series and the rest of these games. NBA underway, hockey, so there's a lot of money out there and money to be made on these games.
I think it could have been even a lot ugly on our side if you don't have Tennessee come back in that game yesterday against the Chargers. The game.
Well, again, if they go for 2 and they're able to win that game, that goes a long way on the book side of things, because it would have killed a lot of teasers.
Right.
This was a really bad week for teasers for the books. Didn't knock a lot of those favorites down. I think with the Eagles were really the only decent favorite that lost straight up, so the teasers were very well for the public as well.
Having the Browns come back, I think, helped a little bit, getting the Panthers to beat the Eagles, and then keeping that game under last night between the Bengals and Chiefs.
Yeah, miracle.
You look 11:41 to go. They were sitting on, 55 points. I mean, it looked bad. Like, that game's a sure over. Public had that game over as well. It didn't happen. And then kicking yesterday. I mean, you think of the way that 2 of these big games changed yesterday. That Tampa Bay-Cleveland game. Cleveland comes back in that game because Cannizzaro, the kicker for Tampa, he misses a field goal and an extra point in regulation, but then makes a 59-yard field goal in overtime, the longest field goal ever to win a game in overtime. And then you look at Baltimore and New Orleans. Those 2 teams could possibly meet in February. 222 straight extra points Justin Tucker made, 222. Yet what did the announcers keep saying? Chris Myers kept saying yesterday he's never missed an extra point on 3 straight touchdowns. He finally missed it for the last one that would have sent that great game into overtime. So from a betting perspective, that game was 3.5 in that Tampa game, in that Tampa-Cleveland game. And the way that game was bet with a lot of action on New Orleans, had that game gone to overtime, it's possible that Baltimore actually covers that game in overtime. Instead, if you had the Saints on the money line, which a lot of bettors did yesterday, they ended up cashing that ticket. I think some big bet games that'll come up this weekend. You've got the Rams against the Green Bay Packers, and the Sunday night game, you've got the Saints and Vikings. 2 games where you might see some underdog play on both those sides, but I think there's some good value, and for me, for my money, I should say, those are the 2 big bet games you'll see in pro football this weekend. I know you want to talk a little bit about what we just saw in college and what's coming up in college as well.
Yeah, well, first, finish up on the NFL. 7 straight weeks now that we've had an overtime game. So it's just amazing.
It is.
The Browns in overtime, and it's amazing that, talking about a kicker in the Browns game, it's normally the Browns kicker that's having the problems, but 7 straight overtimes. And again, we're back out early, 6:30 in the morning this week, as the Eagles travel to London to face the Jaguars. The Jaguars have kind of made London their home field, as they make a trip there every year. But boy, that Jacksonville team is really, really struggling.
Both teams are actually. Eagles are struggling too, and I think you talk about points. We talked about that Bengals game last night against the Chiefs staying under. Through 7 weeks, this is the most touchdowns and the most points that have ever been scored in a pro football season through the first 7 weeks. So scoring is definitely up. A lot of offensive play. Yet some teams like the Eagles and Jags really struggling on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, somebody's got to find a way to win there. Much like this week, Chargers and Titans. They got to see a pretty decent game. They actually got to see with the 2-point conversion. But as we look at college, look at the week in the past. Obviously, the big news was Ohio State going down to Purdue. Rondale Moore, 12 receptions for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. Boilermakers pulled a huge upset over Ohio State. Really throws a shakeup in the top 4 rankings. We see Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3, LSU 4. This is a big week in college football, as next Tuesday, October 30th, the playoff rankings come out. So this is the week where a lot of teams really want to put on that show to get themselves into those top 10 rankings to find a way to make themselves to the playoffs. We have a huge matchup on Saturday with 2 top 10 teams, with Georgia traveling down to Florida, and Jacksonville, number 9 versus number 7. Both of those teams want to leave a lasting impression, both with the 1 loss, to be able to get themselves in that top. Notre Dame obviously travels all the way out west here to San Diego to take on Navy, kind of a neutral site game, kind of really favors Navy with the San Diego trip there. Kind of games that I think are interesting this week is Washington State, obviously coming off the huge win at home against Oregon. The ESPN Game Day crew made the trip up to Pullman. Washington State looked great in the first half there. Oregon was able to pull back a little bit in the second half, but a huge win for Washington State. Now has to travel to Stanford. Washington State ranked 12th, Stanford ranked 25th. However, Stanford's the 4-point favorite, so interesting game there. And then another one where, again, we've got Kentucky, now ranked 12th in the country. We're not talking about basketball, we're talking about football. Kentucky's ranked 12th in the country. However, they travel to Missouri, and Missouri is a 7-point favorite. So not always the rankings talking about the better teams. Sometimes got to look at those points. So I think that's an interesting game. And then 5 o'clock, we've got the Big 12. We talk about upsets in the Big 12. Texas at Oklahoma State, 5 o'clock on ABC. Ellinger's a question mark, so we might see Bueller. I think that Texas quarterback's going to be healthy and ready to go. But that's going to be a big game, as Texas has got themselves, I believe they're sitting in the 6th hole right now. So a win over Oklahoma State really brings them into the playoff picture.
I think too, Appalachian State, for the first time ever in the top 25. They're a road favorite. We've seen that number come down a little bit, but kudos to Appalachian State for the first time. 2 teams we didn't talk about who are both on byes or off this week are number 1 ranked Alabama and number 4 ranked LSU. Those 2 teams play each other next week in Tiger Stadium. Look for that line from Station Casinos to go up sometime today in your mobile app or in any one of our sports books, because that is arguably one of the marquee games of the year. You look at LSU and the way they've played, that only loss against Florida. They beat some big teams. That's going to be an exciting game to watch. I think that'll be a big bet game next weekend. As Jason mentioned, we've got pro basketball, pro football, college football, baseball World Series, the Golden Knights playing. There's some great stuff going on, and don't forget, if you can't get to one of our great racing sports books, there's STN Mobile. We still got that promotion going.
Yeah, last week to be able to sign up on mobile, we've got the $100 bonus. Make sure to get in, and in-play has been absolutely fantastic. A lot of people joining in the in-play, both on the football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Be able to make your bets throughout the game, not just at the commercial breaks. Look for in-play on your mobile app.
And don't forget, you guys, again, you've got Week 8 coming up in pro football, Week 9 in college football, some big bet games that are going to be on the board and on the STN mobile app. Thanks for tuning in. We look forward to talking to you guys next weekend on our STN weekly betting section, Bookends.